And welcome back to another end of a fast. That's right, 72 hours. We are 72 hours in, y'all. And those of you who've been with me, you've seen us go through this week. It's been an amazing week. And we're going to talk here about how to begin a fast, how to get ready for the fast, how to get through a fast successfully, and then, of course, how to end a fast. And you're going to get to see what I'm eating. I'll bring that up here in just a minute so you can see what I'm eating to end this fast. If you were with us at the beginning of the week, you saw what we ate as the last meal. It was an amazing meal. We looked at my blood sugars. We looked at what's been going on over the course of the week as we've been talking through the idea of pairing our planning and our strategy with fasting to get the best benefit in terms of our metabolism as we talk about reversing diabetes, improving our blood pressure, improving our cholesterol, getting off of medication, losing weight, and on and on and on. And so I welcome you to this space right now. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We are creating the life we've always wanted, and we're living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything from outside of us or anything from inside to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We are showing up with our best self, our best health, and the best plans for our life. We're breaking through those boundaries, and we are going to be successful. Whatever platform you are on, Instagram or Twitch, sorry, or LinkedIn or Facebook or right here on YouTube, I welcome you to the community and welcome you to our fasting show today as we review. If you know how we do, and you should know how we do, I've got my monitors that we'll take a look at here in just a minute. Well, let's see. I've got my monitors over here. I've got my Dexcom Clarity report down below so you can see what's been going on with my blood sugar. And then we'll get into our discussion. And you get to see what I'm going to eat to end the fast. And I see one of our community members out there that actually suggested some of what I'm about to eat. So congratulations. If you have an idea, if you have something that you want me to do, something that you want me to try for ending the fast, go ahead and send that in, send the information in to us, and we will try as much as we can to get there. So let's go ahead now and let's take a look at blood sugars. And this is what my freestyle, but that's not my blood sugar, that's my weight. Let's see, blood sugar. So right now my blood sugar is 76, and we're looking at this number right in here. You'll see that right there. That's what my blood sugar is right now. And you'll see down here is what my blood sugar has been running over the course of the last 12 hours. And you'll see it's been riding right above 100. It didn't quite dip below 70. Sorry, right above 70. Didn't quite dip below 70 continuously. We'll look at that number actually in looking each of the numbers here in a minute when we go to the Dexcom. So let's go ahead and do that now. And so here's the Dexcom, and you'll see once again up here, that's what the Dexcom says that my blood sugar is, right? 114. And as you know, the Dexcom tends to be higher than the Freestyle, at least in most cases. Okay, and so right now it's running, what's that? Let's see, 75, 25, almost 30 points higher according to this compared to the Libre. Down below, you'll see what my blood sugars have been running according to this. And what I like about this is I can actually put my finger on that graph, and you'll see that, and we're looking at the graph right here, and see over the last 24 hours, you'll see what my blood sugar has been running, low 100s, 90s, 80s, and that was last night, up, and then back down into the 80s and 90s. And right here is what I call the toothpaste effect. Look at how low that got, down to the 80s. And then right after brushing my teeth, look at how that spiked up to the 120s. And it kind of stayed there until it's now starting to come back down into the low 100s, like the 1-teens. So that's what's been going on in terms of my numbers. And we'll take a look at the actual report and we'll kind of trace back what's been going on today, yesterday, day before, and so forth until we go to where I started the fast. Right now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my actual monitors. And so I have a Keto Mojo, which gives me both glucose and ketones. And then here I have a Contour, which will just give me a blood sugar. So let's go ahead and grab our trusty container. And here I have a blue, which will give me the ketones. I've got a brown, which will give me blood sugar. I need to get a strip for the Contour, so we'll get it out of this one. And then, let's see, let's grab a couple of Lancets. All right, let's get that back over here. And let's go ahead and get started. So get a strip out, first of all, for the Contour. If I can get one. Get that back in the container. Boom. There we are. And so this one, I try to open both of these. I don't actually like the tear strip ones because, you know, you have to make sure that you don't bend it. All right, so that one gets out for, there you are, that's for blood sugar. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to open this again. All right, and get the one for the ketones at least started opening. Right? Oops, I did get it all the way out, by the way. And then grab one of my strips here. And I'm going to actually go back to this view so we can see what the blood sugar is at the same time as I am getting a finger stick. Okay, here we are. So I'm going to, ow, 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 ow. That actually hurt a little bit more than I thought. All right, here we go. So good drop. So that came out very briskly. That's the Keto Mojo. Here is the Contour. And so 60 for the Keto Mojo. And let's see here for the Contour is 76. And of course right there you'll see that the Dexcom says it's 114. And then if I go back here, this is the Libre. And you'll see the Libre is in keeping a little bit more with what these others are saying. Let's go ahead and pull this one out and get the ketone stick in there, or strip. What do you think my ketones are going to be? So 72 hours into this week's fast. Let's go ahead and get that there, get that started. 72 hours into this week's fast. What do you think? What do you think we're going to have? Go ahead and drop that in the comments. 0.8 is what it says that I am. And so when we talk about, actually, let me do one thing. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Keto Mojo app and then get that all synced. And let's go ahead and get that synced up, and we'll pull that over. So remember, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. All right, and so that's all synced. And let's go ahead and I want to look at the graph. We got our readings, and then let's take a look at our graph. And so what you'll see here is, so here we are at the end. That's what my ketones are right now, 0.8 with a blood sugar of 60. Right there is where we were last night, 1.1 with blood sugar of 70. And the day before, 0.8 with a blood sugar of, let's see, what was the blood sugar there? Blood sugar of 67. And then here is the glucose. That was when we started the fast. Well, that was actually before we started the fast, right? Because that was on Monday during the show. We had ketones of 0.1 with blood sugar of 94. And so when we talk about blood sugars, what we want is we want the ketones to be as high as possible. We want the glucose to be as low as possible during the fast, because that means that if the glucose is low, that means that my body has used up all the sugar that's floating around in the blood. Does that make sense to everybody? And if my ketones are high, the question is, where do those ketones come from? And they come from the burning of fat. So the fat is being burned, and that is causing the ketones. Now, one of the questions that sometimes comes up is if the blood sugar is low, for instance, right now, what was it? It was 60. if the blood sugar is low, how then does it actually go up, right, to 70, 80, 90, one teens or whatever it was? And so a couple of comments. If I did not use toothpaste that had sugar, my ketones, my blood sugar probably would continue staying in the 60s. 60s, 70s probably. Maybe pumping above 70, maybe into the 80s or 90s. That happens because the body is able to make sugar from non-carbohydrate sources. For instance, when it breaks down fat is broken down into triglycerides. Triglycerides meaning one glycerol with 3 fatty acids attached to it. When the fatty acids break off, then the glycerol that's left can be converted into sugar. And so that's how the body is still able to maintain glucose, your blood sugar, without you eating. I want you to hear that. That's how it, first of all, it takes it out of the liver. When the glycogen goes away as you're fasting, then it goes to fat, and then the fat is converted into free fatty acids, and the other part goes to make sugar. So that's how you're able to get that. Now, the 4.1 that you're seeing right there is a calculation. It's called the glucose-keto index, and it is a calculation that comes from dividing glucose by ketones. Now, if you're looking at that number, you're saying, wait a minute, 60 divided by 0.8 is not 4.1. Well, what you have to do, and this is a conversion, right? So it's an international number. So what you do is you convert the glucose into international units and then divide it. So if I grab my, there you go. If I grab my trusty calculator, and so 60 divided by 18, which is the conversion, right, is 3.3 divided by 0.8. gives me my 4.1. Okay, so that's how that number comes about. Glucose-keto index. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go and take a look at my Dexcom Clarity report, and you'll see it there on the screen. And my average blood sugar over the last 2 weeks, 120. With my glucose management indicator of 6.2. That means that if I were to get an A1C, it would approximate a 6.2 based on the numbers, based on the levels that I'm getting. Then I'll make a comment about that here in just a minute. I'm in target 100% of the time, target being anywhere from 70 to 180, which is what you're seeing there. I usually tell my patients I want their average blood sugar to be between 100 and 120. And this is for my diabetics, right? Normal blood sugar is anywhere from 70 to 99. That's a normal, non-diabetic, everybody else blood sugar. All right? And if I change this to a 90-day, you'll see that my average blood sugar there is 114 over the last 90 days, which means that over the last week and a half, my blood sugars have been a little higher. Glucose management index is 6.0. Once again, if I were to get an A1C, that's what I would expect it to be based on these numbers. I'm in target 98% of the time, the target still being the same from 70 to 180, right down here. Now, if I look at the actual numbers, and this one is very instructive and hopefully for everyone. So here's my blood sugar right now at 129. So if we continue to scroll back, right, so down here, right around 6 o'clock, right, so right in here is where I brushed my teeth. And then look at the rise that we get right there, right up to, I think, 126 actually was how high it went. And overnight, right, you'll see that blood sugar is kind of hanging in the 80s, 90s, one somethings, right? And one of the things that you sometimes will see also is right about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, your body begins pumping you full of hormones. And the hormones are with the intention of getting you up, getting you ready for the day, right? That's called the dawn phenomenon for everybody. And the same process happens for everyone except for diabetics. Your blood sugar probably spikes higher because, remember, your body doesn't know how to manage sugar, whether it comes from the food you eat or it comes from hormones that the body gives. So you will get that spike. the other reason that we know is that because we're checking, right? Most people aren't checking their blood sugar. So here we are, right at right now 72 hours. If I go back 24 hours, that puts us when we were 48 hours, and you see the blood sugar there was 108. If I go back 24 hours before then, that would depend to be 24 hours of fasting, 103. And going back further, when we started the fast at hour 0, we were 125. So let's take a look from that point, moving forward, right, into today. So blood sugar was 125, and if you didn't see the episodes where I showed what I ate, you want to go back and watch that. I did a review of that on one of the shows here recently. And if you've not joined us yet for those check-ins so you can see what's going on as I prepare for the fast, go ahead and do that. We do that on Tuesday around 1:15, right after the meeting in my office. All right, so here's my blood sugar at the time I'm starting to eat, or when I'm starting my fast. And I ate, and let's take a look at the blood sugars going forward. So 127, 120s, 130s. So 130s, 130s. Remember, we started at 127, 130s down to 118. And so for the rest of the day, right, starting at 1 o'clock, my blood sugar actually stayed pretty stable. As a matter of fact, it started going down. Into the next day, right, 108, 1 teens. So staying pretty stable there, right there until about 6 o'clock, brushed my teeth, and then blood sugar spiked up, 125, and then started coming back down. All right, see that? Staying in the 100s, 1 teens, low 100s, 90s, and then going down further, right? Down, 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 down. Going into the next day, kind of staying with that theme. All right, so here's that 3:30, 4 o'clock dawn phenomenon that I talked about. And then right in here, brushed my teeth again. And so our blood sugars began going up, 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 and spiked up to about 125, right? That was the highest I think I see there. And then began coming back down into the 108, 109, 90s, 95s. And here I changed my my sensor here, so that's why there's a little gap between those two. So 97, 93, and then into today, right, in the 100s, right, 106, 96, 97, 107, right? Here's that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock dawn phenomenon that's happening right there. And then here is the toothpaste effect again, right? So brush my teeth. Actually brushed my teeth a little later because I got up a little later today. And then we're in the 1 teens. So if I've got to find a different toothpaste just so we can see the effect there. And if I didn't do that in the morning, then those blood sugar probably would stay in the, I don't know, low 100s, even going down into the 70s. I think if you remember, I think last year during one of the periods, I found some toothpaste that didn't have any sugar that I used. It was, I think, artificially sweetened, and it tasted nasty, y'all. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. So if you have a suggestion, go ahead and send that in to me, because I'd love to try that. All right, let's go ahead. Let me do one thing before we get over and say hi to our community members. Well, actually, why don't we do that right now? I'm gonna go over and just say hello. I see some folks that are out there. Thank you for coming through. And let's see, Cornelia. What's up, Cornelia? Cornelia says, hello, Dr. Woode. What's going on? Thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. And then Jennifer says, howdy all. Hello, Cornelia. Hi to Jennifer from Cornelia. Cornelia said, thank you for sharing the pic of your garden. It looks beautiful. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It was an amazing picture. We may show that again here in a minute. I got to find it again. Cornelia was guessing 1.6, and we were 0.8, Cornelia. And David Hunt, he says, Doc, we live. That's right, David. We are in the house. We're in the house. Jennifer says, thank you. I've grown a basic garden for years, but upped my game this year. Instead of baking cakes, cookies, and breads, I'm growing veggies, better balanced bites. There you go, Jennifer. You get a hand clap for that. Here you go. This is what we're gonna do. Anybody who mentions one of our catchphrases, you're gonna get a hand clap. Okay. Cornelio says, "I love that, Jennifer. I wish I had horns for you. Your veggies look so good. I love the fact it's organic." Yes, yes, yes. And then Cornelia saying hello to David. Yes. I love it, love it, love it. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to do a check-in. And I love to do the check-ins because it really helps us to focus on what's going on in our bodies as we try to improve where we are. So whenever we're looking at improving anything, you always want to evaluate. And this check-in is really an evaluation. The places that people tend to have the most challenges is physical, mental, and emotional. And those are really 3 of the 8 domains of health that we've talked about. Right now, I am 72 hours into the fast. And so physically, sometimes people will equate fatigue, tiredness, lightheaded, sweaty, dizzy, all those things with fasting. Right now, I am not feeling any of those. As I went through the fast, I think I mentioned in our check-in last night that the day before, I wasn't doing a good job of hydrating, and so I actually had a headache. Like, I don't usually get headaches, so when I get a headache, I have to figure, okay, something is going on. And as I began thinking back through the last several days, realized that I had not been doing a good job of this. Doing a good job of hydrating. Because I've been resting, I am not feeling as though I'm hitting a wall. So as I'm walking through the day, sometimes people say, "Oh man, I get to a certain point of the day and I'm beat." A lot of that has to do with rest. Now there could be other things going on, but that's the majority of it. When you're not hydrated, your body still has to get the same amount of blood, the same amount of oxygen, same amount of nutrients to all the cells. Well, if the volume is lower, in order to get that process still working properly, it speeds the heart up so they can get the blood flow there. So sometimes people will feel palpitations, feel like your heart's racing or skipping a beat because of hydration, okay? So physically. And then mentally, that goes along a lot of times with what's going on in terms of our energy. When you are tired, then your thought process actually doesn't function as well, because you are in the process of your body's distracted almost. Okay, so because I've been resting, thought process is good. Plus, so you actually get a boost in the thought process from the emotional, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. So physically, mentally, doing fine right now, feeling pretty clear, and emotional. So this week has been an exciting week for me, because we've got some conferences, camp meeting going on here in town. We've been involved with that. Been getting a chance to hang out with my son. So he's been at the office working. We made him work. Well, we didn't make him. So he's been there, and I get a chance to drive around with him, right? So I pick him up. We leave work together, and it's just been fun for me to just kind of hang out with him over the course of the last week. And so emotionally, I'm pumped. I've been excited about physically what's been going on with me in terms of my body, my blood sugars, the weight that I'm seeing, and then excited to see what's going on with you, as I've seen you guys commenting in our private community group, and of course here on the channel as well, to see the improvement and the benefits that you're all getting. And then of course we got a chance to see Jennifer's garden, which I'm actually going to try to pull up again, and I think I can do that quickly. If not, we'll do it at some point here during the show. But it was amazing. Let's see if I have that, if I can get it quickly. If I can't, okay, I think it is. Boom, there it is. Got it. And for those of you who didn't see it on our show yesterday, here it is. Okay, so as I mentioned, if you have items that you'd like us to see, if you grow a garden, right, and you're thinking balanced bites, if you are eating a particular thing, a meal, for your first meal following a fast, or your last meal before a fast, Send that in. If you have suggestions of what you'd like me to eat to break the fast, as I mentioned, the fast itself, starting the fast, that one is kind of prescriptive because we get lunch that comes in on Tuesdays, and so what I do is I use that time to help people understand it doesn't matter where the food comes from. Even in that situation, you can still make choices that are consistent with what we're talking about in terms of balanced bites. Okay, so anyway, so that's that. So if you have suggestions, go ahead and send those in, because we would love to be able to use those. Having said that, let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up my meal for today. And this partially, well, it's actually a combination of two of our community members' recommendations. The first is new today, so let's go ahead and let me pop that over here. And so this is the suggestion of Cornelia, who is in the chat right now. Cornelia, so this is some jerk salmon. And by the way, I had not made jerk salmon before, Cornelia, so thank you for the suggestion. And this is garlic baby spinach. Garlic baby spinach. Now, I didn't do the sweet potato as you suggested, but I am doing some asparagus. Okay, so jerk salmon on a bed of garlic baby spinach, and I don't know if there's any garlic on there, but in there, I didn't take any out of the pan. And then this is some asparagus. Over here is just what I did was I took some of those same baby spinach and I put them on the salad. And this salad actually is the recommendation of Pam, who is one of our community members. It is cucumber and tomatoes, and then of course I modified it. But cucumbers, tomatoes, there are some mixed nuts that are in there that she recommended. And the salad dressing that I'm using is I think it's a Tuscan lemon pepper, I believe. I'd have to go back and look at that. But anyway, that was her suggestion, and so I've used that over the last couple of weeks as what we're using for our family there we go. What we're using to break the fast. Now, let's kind of walk through this a little bit, and this is a great place actually for us to get into this part of our discussion. So let me do one thing before I do that. One thing before I do that, and here we are. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start walking through what we are eating to end this week's fast. This is a suggestion from some of our community members. As I mentioned, I've got some jerk salmon. I've got some baby spinach. I've got some asparagus, and I've got a salad here, also a recommendation from another one of our community members. So let's kind of walk through this, because this is a great place to talk about how we end the fast. Okay, we'll talk more about getting into the fast, getting through the fast, but how we end the fast is actually just as important as how we start the fast and what we do in the fast. The reason for that is that the things that we eat to break the fast have direct implications on what happens after those hours. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are breaking the fast and you eat things that are highly sugared, high carbs, complex carbs, carbs that are easily absorbable, then your blood sugar will spike up. When blood sugar spikes up, then insulin has to come out to deal with the sugar. And the insulin is what causes the problem, because insulin now begins to stimulate the appetite, because insulin is an appetite stimulator. When the insulin comes out, because it has to deal with the sugar that's there, it dysregulates ghrelin and leptin, which are our hunger and satiety hormones. Insulin is a storage hormone. So all of a sudden your weight goes up. Right? So all of those things, right? So stimulating the appetites, now you're having cravings. Blood sugar is spiking, right? So you'll actually also feel fatigue because you're getting those big spikes and dips. It's dysregulating our hunger and satiety hormones. So we feel hungry and our weight starts going up. And this all has direct ties to the thing that you just ate as the meal after the fast. And so you spent this time going through the fast to get the benefits. And if we're not careful, that meal right after we break the fast, that meal can begin undoing some of the things that we did. So in terms of what we do to break the fast, we're also thinking here about the balanced bites idea. Remember, balanced bite says that we're eating foods that are whole foods, minimized processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, appropriate portion sizes, and foods that are tasty and foods that are flavorful. That is what we are looking for balanced bites. So that let's take a look at this plate again. And so as we're doing this, so here we are, right? So we've got protein. Well, first of all, let's back up. So most of the things that are here are whole foods. Right? So non-whole foods would be the salad dressing and the cheese that's in the salad, right? So we'll put that in non-whole foods. Although I'm not sure, I guess it would be milk would be the, right? So everything else whole foods, okay? Minimize processing. Well, once again, the salad dressing, the cheese would be processed. What I have on the jerk salmon, I guess you can consider that processed. The seasoning that I have that's Walker's Wood, and the nuts that are here are also processed, right? Because they take them and whatever they do to them, it's lightly salted. So yes, but for the most part, if you look at the meal, right, whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar. Once again, the only thing that would have added sugar would be the salad dressing, and I'm sure there's some sugar in there. And what else? I think that's it, because if I remember the cheese, yeah, they didn't, this brand, maybe there are other cheeses they put sugar in it, but this one not. Okay, and then lean protein, healthy fats, right? So here's my protein. And the reason that I like this salad is because I get to put nuts on it. And those nuts also give me lean protein. So I've got my salmon, I've got my nuts that are in here. I'm getting some protein from the cheese as well, right? And one of the things that I want you to be mindful of as you're putting your meal together, that first meal after the fast, you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. You're getting enough fat. And, well, we'll come to fat in a minute. But so here is my protein. And this piece of salmon probably would not be enough in terms of protein for what we are doing. Remember, we're talking about balanced bites. We're talking about strength training. We're talking about walking. We're talking about fasting. So in this space with the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, that piece of salmon probably is inadequate as protein. So when you see me eating protein for either getting into the fast or coming out of the fast, you'll see me have a lot of protein. Like when we started our fast this past week, I had cheese. I had a hamburger patty. I had, what else did I have? Oh, and I had some sliced steak. Right, so a lot of protein. Why am I doing the protein? Because the protein helps to keep me fuller longer, helps to blunt the cravings that I can have over the first 6 hours of fasting, which is called the postprandial period. All of that's going on, and that is beneficial, the protein that's there. Looking at the salad, right? One of the reasons I use salad is because I get the bulk. And I modified Pam's salad because we had cucumbers, and we had the nuts, and we had the tomatoes. But I added the baby spinach because that gives me additional bulk, and it gives me additional fiber. So that's the reason that this is modified. Otherwise, it's actually a very good salad, just the way it was. Okay, so lean protein, healthy fats. So I doused the asparagus in olive oil. The baby spinach is actually sautéed with some olive oil in it. The dressing is a vinaigrette, which has some oil in it. And then I've got the cheese that's there, and I chose lean cheese. And what else? So that's my healthy fats. And of course, I get some fats from the nuts. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables. Now, most of the things that are on here are actually non-starchy vegetables, right? So starchy vegetables, let me back up. One of the suggestions for this meal was the sweet potatoes. Now, I have not done sweet potatoes in terms of having them wholesale long enough or enough to know what it does to my blood sugar. So the reason I didn't include it here was because I've got to figure out what happens to my blood sugar first before I add that in. And then I can compensate. And the reason for that, let me back up. Let me come to you in full screen, and let me talk about that for a minute. So it's not that I don't or won't eat sweet potatoes or won't eat things that are not that I won't eat things that are starchy. It's that if I'm going to eat that, then I adjust the other things that I'm eating. I want you to get that, right? So it's not that, okay, I'm not going to eat sweet potato, I'm not going to eat that, whatever it is, or I'm not going to do that. It is that if I'm going to eat that, then I want to make sure that I'm compensated somewhere else. For example, can I tell on myself? Okay, yeah, let me tell on myself. So if I'm going to eat Cadbury chocolate, which I am, by the way, I'm going to eat some Cadbury chocolate, then what I want to do is I want to look at the rest of my meal, for instance, for that day or within that 24-hour period, and decide what am I going to take out that would also raise my blood sugar if I'm going to eat the Cadbury. Notice I'm doing a substitution. It's kind of like when you go to, I don't know, say you cook, right? And you're making a dish and you don't have a certain ingredient, so you're going to substitute another ingredient. Same idea. So I am creating, I am fixing, I am cooking my meals for the day. And I am figuring out how I want my blood sugars to go. I'm not just letting it happen on its own. That's the idea behind limitless living, that we are in control. We're taking charge of what it is. We're not just letting things happen. So if I'm looking at my meal and I think, okay, my blood sugar is going to spike up because I ate the Cadbury, okay, it's going to happen. I'm going to eat the Cadbury. So the question then for me is, okay, how am I going to compensate for the fact that I ate the Cadbury? Either I'm looking for something else that I can remove, because remember, blood sugars are additive. If you eat one thing and the blood sugar goes up and then you eat something else, the blood sugar goes higher. So either I'm going to eat something else so it doesn't stack, or I'm going to go out back and get my weights and start lifting, or I'm going to go walking, or I'm going to start drinking water, right? So there are lots of different ways to mitigate what comes from the blood sugar, but you have got to do it. You've got to figure out what you're going to do to get that, okay? All right, so back to our meal. And so we've got the salad, non-starchy vegetables, portion control, right? So if you look at this is pretty portion controlled, right? So I can probably eat a lot more of the baby spinach if I wanted. I could probably eat a lot more of the asparagus if I wanted. The things here that I would be careful of when it comes to portions, probably the cheese, the nuts, and the salad dressing. Everything else, right, is reasonable. So even the salmon. So as you're thinking about balanced bites is not a prescription. It is guidance. It is a blueprint. Just like the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. So when we talk about what we're doing in terms of what we are eating, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are ending the fast in the same vein as we start the fast and as we get through the fast. And so here are some suggestions, so tips for breaking your fast. Right, you want to monitor blood sugars because you want to know what are the foods doing. Just like I was mentioning a little while ago, that I need to understand what sweet potatoes do to my body. In order for me to do that, I'm going to be looking at blood sugars. I'm going to eat some and look and see what the blood sugars do. So monitor blood sugar, even if you're not diabetic. People say, well, I'm not diabetic, so I'm not going to check sugar. Well, how do you know what the food is doing to your body? How do you know what stress is doing? How do you know what exercise is doing to your body? And I'm going to say most people, let me say that, most people who have metabolic disease, if you have high blood pressure, even if you're not diabetic, I bet your insulin is high. If you're overweight, even though you're not diabetic, I bet your blood sugar is higher. If you have high cholesterol, you've had a heart attack, you have peripheral artery disease, you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, I bet your blood sugar spikes up. And you don't know that because you're not checking. So everybody, you can go down to your local store, find a glucose monitor, and start checking. The other thing is that I check a lot is I check ketones. Now I check ketones here on the show. Now I don't usually check them outside of when we get together, because for most of the time, most of my non-fasting time on those eating windows, I am not eating. I'm not trying to eat a ketogenic diet. In other words, I'm not trying to eat in the way so that I can generate ketones. What I try to do during that time is I try to eat foods that don't cause tremendous spikes in my blood sugar. Okay, so monitor blood sugars, portion control, and we've talked about that here with the food I'm eating. Eat slowly. It takes about 20 minutes for the signal to get to from your stomach to your brain that you're full. And if you eat faster than that, then all of a sudden, right, you've overeaten, and then your brain finally gets the message and say, oh, we should have stopped eating 20 minutes ago. And then you want to avoid sugary processed foods, and that goes along with the whole idea of balanced bites. Okay, that whole idea of balanced bites comes in right there. So when we're thinking about breaking the fast, those are some of the tips that we want to make sure that we are following. And then when you're thinking about considerations, here are some considerations I want you to have. And this is breaking the fast. And the reason we're doing breaking the fast first is because, of course, we got the food here. You want to make sure that you're choosing foods that help you maintain. What did I say? Foods that help you maintain stable blood glucose levels while giving you nutrition. We don't want highly processed foods. We don't want high calorie foods. You don't want calorie dense. You want nutrient dense foods. You also want to eat some things that are gentle on the digestive tract, particularly if you've done one of the longer fasts. Then everything is kind of slowed down. Your GI tract is sleeping. Those goblet cells, which help to protect the lining of your GI tract, they're not producing the lining that's there. And so if you throw something in, then all of a sudden they have to kick into high gear. And when they do that, then you have increased elimination. People have bloating. Maybe they have increased gas and some discomfort. So you want to ease into that. Start low and go slow. Start low, go slow. So don't go eat a 10-course meal. You want to focus on low glycemic index foods. Now, these are foods that don't spike the blood sugars as high. And we say a GI of 50 or less than 50 actually, is where we want to be. And then, of course, lean proteins, which we talked about, healthy fats, And then you want to make sure that you're hydrated, because most of us, when we get through fasting, we're going to be a little dehydrated, even if you've done a good job. Because in the fasting, then you're not concentrating on drinking, and even though you're saying, okay, I'm fasting, so I've got to drink more, you end up actually drinking less. So making sure that you're getting that replenished is a good idea. Okay. So when we talk about the fast, I talk about fasting in 3 different components. They are: how do we prepare for the fast, how we get through the fast, and then of course how do we break the fast. And those are the 3 main components. And of course here we just talked about breaking the fast, what we should look at, and you saw exactly what I will be using to break the fast. But let's go ahead and let's go back to the beginning, and let's talk about a successful fast. Successful fast has 3 components, and there you have them right there. You see them. Preparing for the fast, fasting itself, and then getting through the fast. And those are the ways that we're going to be kind of talking about fasting, how to get ready for the fast. And then why preparation for the fast is key. Why is preparation key? Well, because how you prepare for the fast, just like how you get through the fast, how you end the fast, how you prepare ultimately helps to determine the success of the fast. And so 3 areas that I want to talk about specifically. There are others, but the 3 that I check in with those because those are actually 3 of the most important. Physical preparation, mental preparation, and emotional preparation. And physical preparation has to do with our rest. Coming into the fast, you want to make sure you're getting good rest. Your body is going to be going through some significant transitions in terms of hormones, in terms of the energy level or energy source that it uses. And you want to make sure that you are setting yourself up for the best, highest possibility of being successful through the fast. So getting good rest prior to the fast, very important. Getting good rest. Making sure you're hydrated. I just said that most of us are going to be a little dehydrated once we end the fast anyway. And so coming into the fast with good hydration, very important, because we want to make sure that we are not doing anything that will cause us to have difficulty as we get into the fast. Because how you get into the fast will be a significant item in future fasts, because your brain, your body is going to remember what it was like the last time. And if you didn't have a good experience the last time, guess what? This time the body's going to say, yeah, let's not do that. Right? So physically, you want to make sure that you are rested. You also want to make sure that you are eating well. Still on the physical. Balanced bites. So remember, balanced bites is not a thing that we are going to do down there or something that we did once. That's not how it's intended. Balanced bites is the idea now that this is how I think about food. When I'm evaluating food, just like on your job, whatever you do, when you're evaluating what you do, there's a process that you go through. When I'm looking at someone who is, and I've mentioned to you here, when I talk to people about limitless living, and I talk to them about health and metabolism, I speak in triple E, right? Educate, empower, encourage. That's what I talk in. I educate, I give tools, and I connect. Educate, empower, encourage. That's the 3, triple E formula of success. But as I'm talking to people, right, I'm looking at their life and what they do. And I'm saying, where's the rhythm? Where's the alignment? And where's the structure? What is their goal? Rhythm. What is their ultimate purpose? Rhythm. What's their statement? Rhythm. What is their North Star statement? Rhythm. What is their why? Rhythm. What's the alignment? Are the things they're doing consistent with where they say they want to go? And structure. Have they put in place anything that's going to help them continue to do the things that they need to do to get to where they say they want to go. Yeah? So rhythm, alignment, and structure. So physically, are we doing the things that we need to do to be successful? Are we walking? Are we, right? So anyway, so all of those. But we rested. Do we get rest? Are we hydrated? And have we done everything that we need to do so that when we get into the fast, it is not a shock on the system? And the final thought about physical is, what are we eating? Just like we looked over here, right? Just like we looked over here. And this is the meal that we are using to break the fast. This is a perfect meal as the last meal for before you start fasting. Yeah? Same thing. Balanced bites, whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetable, portion controlled, and tasty and flavorful. So balanced bites is not I do that when I break the fast. Oh, I do that when I start the fast. It is what we do. And the things that you eat coming into the fast are going to have a significant impact on what happens downstream. Okay, so now we've talked about what we do there physically. So mentally is the other place where we want to make sure that we are doing a job. So when we go through the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, one of the pillars is mental mastery. And mental mastery has as its base the idea that everything that affects us, and the behavior that we have depends on our interpretation. For example, I was talking to a group last night and I was telling them, if you say something to me, at me, about me, whatever, those words don't have an effect until I give them meaning. So you said something, and I think to myself, she just insulted me. That understanding, that meaning that I just gave to it, causes me to have an emotion, have a feeling. That feeling drives my behavior and my actions. Those actions give me a result. So everything is filtered through the lens of our thoughts. And so preparing for the thought, preparing to get through the fast is important because it allows us to think about what's going to happen in the fast. What are the benefits that we're going to get from the fast? When it becomes challenging, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And if you can prepare mentally before, when the fast comes, it is not as big a deal. Visualize what's happening. Visualize what's going on in your body. When I'm out there and we're doing strength, strategy, and mindset, and I'm lifting, I'm visualizing, like, okay, this is burning right now, but I'm doing this because my muscles are growing. My muscles are getting more toned. I'm getting stronger. I'm setting myself up for success so that my blood sugars are better. My weight's going down, right? So I am talking to myself as I'm going through the process. When I come home late and I'm off my schedule, like this week, and the brain says, man, you've already done 56 hours of fasting. You've already done 60 hours of fasting. It's okay. You're going to be fasting next week again anyway. Then I get to say, thank you for that suggestion, brain. I really appreciate it. What are you trying to tell me right now? What are you trying to do for me right now? What benefit are you trying to give me right now? And then I can figure out what is going on. Oh, it's that, I'm really tired, or I'm worried about this thing over here, or whatever it is. We get to decide when we're mentally prepared. So physically, mentally, and then of course, emotionally. Emotionally, very important. Emotionally is important because when you fast, there are going to be times when your emotions are going to peak. Remember, your hormones are changing. Cortisol levels are fluctuating. Blood sugars are fluctuating. Insulin levels are fluctuating when we fast. Ghrelin, leptin, beta hydroxybutyrate for the brain, BDNF, brain-derived natriuretic factor, all of those things are flowing. And if we're not careful, then those changes in emotions, changes in hormones can cause things to happen emotionally. The other thing is when you're fasting, food gets taken out of the picture as your emotional buffer. Because all of a sudden, you've got to deal with that situation. You got to deal with that person. You got to deal with that project on your own. And how you do that, how you prepare for that, anticipating, okay, I'm about to have this meeting. I'm about to, this project is due. You got to begin anticipating what's going to happen during the fast. What's happening during the time when you're fasting. So that you begin to become emotionally ready for the fast. And then, of course, as you're preparing for a fast, which is key, you are determining what the milestones are. Right? So what are the milestones? What are the things that are going to be happening? What are the spaces that I'm going to end up in? Where am I? What are the things that I'm looking for? My weight's going to change. My blood sugars are going to be doing this. My whatever it is. You are getting yourself ready to successfully get through that fast. And so here are some takeaways. Right? Preparation is key. You want to prepare mentally. And the reason because we talk about 3, right? So the reason I put mentally is that mentally, when you prepare mentally, that has impact for everything else. When you are thinking about fasting correctly, then you don't have to worry about physical. You're going to get the rest. You're going to deal with the hydration. You're going to deal with all the other things. And then you're going to also be in a better space to help with the emotional. Right? Get good rest, eat nutrient-dense meals, and get into community. Now, community one, I want to spend a minute there talking about it. Everything else gets amplified in community. Everything else works better in community. Everything else is more sustainable in community. So if you're not in community, you want to make sure that you get into community so that the community gets to support you, you get to support the community, and we all become successful together. Okay? So once again, when we talk about fasting, we talk about 3 things. We talked about preparing for the fast. We've already talked about ending the fast. And then now how do we go through fasting successfully? And what's really happening there? And so when you think about fasting, I want you to begin thinking about fasting in 24-hour chunks. 0 to 24, 24 to 48, 48 to 72. Because our goal, our recommendation, is that everybody can work their way up so that they can start fasting at least 24 hours once a week. Unless there is some significant medical, other kinds of issues, right? That is certainly doable for most people on the planet. 24-hour period. And then you're thinking in 24-hour chunks. So if you are right now doing a 12 and 12 intermittent fasting, then your goal is to work up to a 24-hour fast. If you're doing a 16-8, your goal is to work up to a 24-hour fast. If you're doing a 18-4, then your goal is to work up to do a 24-hour fast. If you're doing a 20, did I do 18-4? Anyway, whatever number, 24, then your goal is to work up to do a 24-hour fast. That is the goal. That's where we start. That is the starting point. And it's not that you can't get benefit from a shorter fast. They are amazing in their ability to improve our glucose, improve our insulin sensitivity, improve our weight, and to get us downstream to some of the benefits that we talk about with fasting. Yes, all of them do. But if we want to do significant changes, if we want to be in the process of where we're really digging in, really helping our body, really helping our metabolism, 24 is where I want you to be. It takes about 24 to 36 hours for the glycogen in your liver to go away. So if you were out there and you said, wait a minute, I have fasted for 24 hours and my blood sugar is still high, my weight hasn't changed. That's because just at 24 hours, when your glycogen is getting ready to go away, you start eating again. And remember, blood sugars stack on each other. So if blood sugar is already high, even though you haven't eaten for 24 hours, it's just now getting to the point where it's having to go elsewhere to find food. There's no reason for it to do that because the blood sugar is still high. That's why coming into the fast with a certain food or a certain meal is important. Okay, so 24-hour chunks is what we're talking about. But we're going to do it a little bit more finely because there are some points that I want to make as we move through. The first 6 hours of fasting really are not fasting. That's another reason for 24 hours, right? Because when you stop eating, those first 6 hours, that's not really fasting. Your body is just now sorting all the food that you ate. It's kind of like going to the grocery store and you come home with all your stuff and now you're putting it where it needs to go. This is going to the cabinet. That's going to the refrigerator. That's going to the freezer. That's going into the pantry. So that's what the body's doing in those first 6 hours. So if you've not eaten for 6 hours and then you say, okay, I'm going to eat, there's no fasting there. The body's still dealing with the sugar. The sugar is already still high. So the fact that you haven't eaten for 2 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours really metabolically is not doing much. The body's still processing. Blood sugars are still high. Insulin is still high. And during this period, and this is the funny, well, I shouldn't say funny thing. This is the interesting thing. That a lot of people will say that they feel hungry during this 6 hours. And we know it cannot be physical hunger. Because like I said, the body still has access to all the stuff you just ate. So it is actually psychological hunger. Right? And because often when we eat that last meal, we come into the fast with high sugars because we've eaten carb, fat, sugary things, insulin level is high and the insulin is driving the craving. So 6 hours, postprandial period, that's what's going on there. And then the 6 hours after that, right? So 6 hours to 12 hours, 6 to 12 hours. This is the early fasting stage. This is where the insulin levels are starting to go down because the body is now beginning to use up the sugar that's floating around. So as long as your blood sugar is high, let me say this, as long as your blood sugar is high, the body is not going to get into ketosis. Because as long as your blood sugar is high, and now we're talking specifically for diabetic, type 2 diabetics, by the way. As long as the blood sugar is high, there's insulin. And insulin negates ketones. So when we talk about the management of blood sugar, we're talking about managing blood sugar, not just for managing blood sugar, but it has significant implications for the fast itself. And in order for the body to get into ketosis, that sugar has to go down, and then the body has to use up what's in the liver before it starts burning what's in the fat cells. Because that high sugar that's there, that's called energy. And as long as the body has access to energy, there's no reason that it has to go to the fat cells to burn that energy, that stored energy. So here's a kicker. As long as your blood sugars are high, it becomes challenging to lose weight. Let me say it a little differently. As long as the blood sugar is high, it becomes challenging to lose weight in a healthy manner. Because there's some of you that are there and your blood sugars are so high that the body is having to pee out the calories, right? That's how one of the ways that the body gets rid of sugar. It pees it out. And you're running to the bathroom 3-4 times. You get up at night 4, 5, 6 times to pee. You get in the car and you're on your way to work and you can't make it to work without stopping off to use the bathroom. That is an indication of high blood sugars. In fact, when the blood sugars become 180 or higher, then you start peeing. And that peeing is actually peeing out calories. So the reason those people lose weight is because they're losing calories. But we keep putting things in and it makes the blood sugar stay higher. Right? So the early fasting stage is where blood sugar, you've just finished, we've gotten through the postprandial period, blood sugars are starting to come down, insulin levels are starting to come down, the body's processing it now, and glycogen is active. Because remember, glucagon and glycogen go in opposite ways. Your energy levels begin to dip because now the body is, okay, oh yeah, the good glucose is going down. I'm gonna have to start soon finding energy from somewhere else. And if you're not rested, you feel that more profoundly than when you're rested. So this is a perfect place to say, yeah, you got to make sure that you are rested. And then 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning to using fat. So glucose levels continue to go down, insulin continues to go down, and the body's now starting to look at fatty acids, right? Fatty acids to say, okay, I need some food. The liver starts to manufacture glucose from non-glucose sources. Energy. Your energy may feel like it's dipping in this area, and you may have a little bit of hunger, you may be a little bit annoyed, irritable, right? So those things. And right here is when sometimes people will say, okay, I feel like I have a headache. And one thing to remember that as you're going through the fast, if you are on medication for diabetes, you may have to adjust those medications. You want to make sure you're talking to your healthcare provider about what to do. Here's and someone asked a question. I was doing a talk last night. So let's address that question here. I know nobody here asked it. But when you are on medication that is designed to lower blood sugar, and that's what diabetes medications are designed to do. They lower blood sugar. When you start fasting, your blood sugars will go down. That's what we want. That's not a point to panic. That's a point to say, well, let me tell you the scenario and then we'll come back to what we do. So when you're fasting, blood sugar is going down, the medication doesn't know that you're fasting. And it doesn't know that the blood sugars are lower. So what does the medication keep doing? It keeps also trying to bring the blood sugar down. And the natural tendency is to think, oh, fasting is dropping my blood sugar too low, so let me stop fasting. Probably not the direction you want to go, right? So people say, okay, let me stop fasting so my blood sugars are better. Okay, now the blood sugars are better, but we've lost the benefit of fasting. Or people say, well, I fasted, my blood sugar is going down. Let me start eating to keep the blood sugar up. Well, that's probably not the best thing to do either, because now we're putting on weight, we're taking on extra calories. What we should do, because there's benefit to fasting, and we don't want to eat, now we talk to our healthcare provider and say, hey, my blood sugars are becoming better, right? Lower is better. How do I adjust my medication to get less medication so that I don't have to eat to keep my blood sugar up and I don't have to stop fasting? So I want you to walk through that process. So the answer is never to eat more so I can keep taking medication. That's never the answer. And of course, we're talking about type 2 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics, that's a whole nother conversation. So there's benefit to fasting, and there's benefit to not having to eat to keep blood sugars up. So the answer to that scenario is we got to change the medication. So make sure you're talking to your healthcare provider. All right, so back to our, so 18 to 24 hours, so glycogen is now getting depleted, and this process takes longer the higher your blood sugar is, depending on the food that you ate coming into the fast, okay? So this is the ketosis is beginning. We're starting to see those ketones show up because the body is now accessing those fat cells. And then we get fat adaptation, right? So we are now having significant increase in ketones, right? We're getting the beta hydroxybutyrate. We're getting autophagy that is now kicking in. We're getting the beta BDNF that's showing up. All of this now is improving. Our inflammation is going down because we are now in the space where the body is not using sugar anymore. It's switching to using fat, and all of the benefits that are coming from this space now show up. And this is where we want to end up. Because when we start eating, even at that 24-hour period, right, we're eating right at the time when the glycogen is supposed to be gone. So we get rid of it, and we fill it back. We get rid of it, we fill it back. What we want to do is we want to get rid of it and have the body have to tap into the fat cells before we now come back and put more stuff in. Clean out the pantry before you go back to the big box store and buy more stuff. That's the space that we want to end up in as we're fasting. Okay? And when we do that, when we're able to get into this space, the benefits that we get are profound. They are amazing. So as we talk about fasting, all three, right? How do we fast successfully? All three are important. Preparing for the fast, understanding what's going on in our body during the fast, and how we break the fast, all very important in what we do and in the success that we have. Okay? Awesome, awesome. Love it. So we are continuing our trek to improve our metabolism, improve our diabetes, improve our high cholesterol and our weight, and all of that. We are on that trek, and fasting is an amazing way to do that. And in order for you to successfully fast, you have to plan. You got to have some structure. So there is synergy between planning and strategy and structure and fasting. It's on the calendar. We fast from this time to this time. This is what we eat before we start the fast. This is what we're going to eat when we end the fast. This is what we're going to eat in our eating windows. All very, very important. We'll continue talking through the process, continue going through the process of fasting. Make sure you join us for all of those as we move forward. And everything that we do here is based on our Triple E formula for success. And you've heard me say it. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows. We educate with the blogs and the podcasts and all the other resources that you see out there. We empower with the tools that we're learning. The Limitless Living Health Action Plan, Balanced Bites, the HEAT model, the COPE model. All of those are tools that you get to use as you are now in the space of putting to practice the things that we're learning. And of course, we encourage with our community, amazing community. As you see, community is out there talking, and we love the group that's here and the interaction that you have. Make sure you join. If you've not joined us yet, you want to make sure you do that. So there should be a button down there somewhere that says join, so you can get into our community as we join in our private community area. We have good discussions there. We meet once a month for our community meetup. You get to come on the show we have after the show where people kind of come and meet and we talk and what's been going on in your life and ask questions and see the successes that you're having. Yeah, join us. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. And all of that is important. We will do our fasting again next week. Tomorrow night we'll have video from the vault. That's 9 p.m. Central. On Sunday, This Week in Review, as we review what's been going on this week. If you've not been to our, I shouldn't say been to, but if you've not been with us on our Strength, Strategy, and Mindset, which is our series that we're doing right now, which is part of our MOVE campaign. Remember, metabolic optimization via exercise. That is the campaign that we're on to help to improve our health. If you've not been joining us, make sure you do that and become a part of that process, because we're having some amazing times as we are working on our bodies. Let me go ahead and pull that up so you can see. That's me there doing some, let's see, what am I doing at that point? We're doing some curls and presses, right? Boom, up, up, up. You'll see down there somewhere we'll do some squats. All right, so we're doing some squats. We're on the bench. Oh, so here I'm doing some pelvic tilts, right? Explaining how this will work. We're tightening the core, right? Lifting our bottom, tilting it up. We want our hamstrings to be about 45-degree angle. We're pushing through the ankles. So I'm explaining that process there. And we're doing some lateral raises. Okay. And, if this is an interesting sight to see, right? So we're talking about not just what do we do in terms of our mentation, we're looking for some significant improvement in our body as well, okay? So we're looking for all of that to happen. So make sure that you join us. And if you did not go through our walking campaign, remember we're talking about metabolic optimization via exercise. So we did a 100-day walk to consistency and health. That's how we started the year, but that is not ended. We have not given up on walking. We are walking in conjunction with what we're doing here in Strength, Strategy, and Mindset. So you can go back and you can see the walking that we did as well. That is also on the channel. And it gives us an amazing opportunity to discuss, to talk. And let's go ahead and pull that up. Okay, and you get to hang out. Let's do this one, so get rid of some of those. You get to hang out with us, okay, and to see the benefits that come from that process. But anyway, I'm always happy when I'm here. And of course, I didn't eat anything, did I? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's eat. Let's at least take one bite. Here's the salmon. Cornelia, thank you. Very good. Salmon and baby spinach. So Cornelia, this is going to be a new thing. It's going to be a new thing for me. All right, you saw it here. First bite after 72 hours. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We are creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything from outside of us, no situation, no circumstance, nothing from inside, no feeling, or no inappropriate concepts to prevent me from doing what I need to do. I'm showing up with my best self, my best health, and my best plans, and I'm going to be successful. So go out, have a successful day, and live a limitless life, and we'll see you at our next episode. We'll see you in our check-ins. We'll see you in the community. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.